Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy New Year. First Maximize Monday of 2026. We made it. If you watched the last one in 25, you know I have a new co host on the show. Ashley is here. And if you've watched the show at all in the last 3 years, you're no stranger to Kasia either. She's always nice enough to join me pretty regularly to discuss things. And both of them pitched this topic to me. So it made sense to have both of you on. We'll get into that in a minute here. But Ashley, Kasia, thank you both. Ashley, welcome to 2026.
Mm.
All right. We talked about this year and wanting to start things off right. And both of you kind of exude positivity on your LinkedIn profiles. I think I've kind of touched on that plenty. And the reason why I've connected with both of you is just because I get motivated when I see your content and hear you tell your stories. So I wanted to give both of you the chance to kind of come on here and do that as we start off the new year. And that's always a good time to set goals, right? And for no other reason, just some accountability to work towards. I know some people try to do things that they think are necessary, but sometimes setting goals don't necessarily have to just be about things that you feel like you should do, but things that you want to do as well. So with both of you focusing on positivity and cash flow, I'll start with you. How do you go about setting goals for yourself that are kind of both realistic but achievable at the same time to not, set yourself up for failure?
So true, Matt. I mean, it's the saying, new year, new me for a reason. Our relationship with time is, I think, something that drives many of us sometimes without us realizing, like another year older, perhaps another year wiser. And I think that really what I've learned over the years is this concept of setting goals that are identity based instead of outcome based. It's also something I learned through, being in sales. How often are we trying at the ninth or 11th hour to get to something, right? To that number or to that achievement without recognizing like who we've become in the process. Oftentimes it's in the journey that people end up going through that transformation. And sometimes to diminish it all just to reach a certain goal, it's counterproductive to the point of setting a goal in the first place. So, one thing that I think is super helpful is thinking about inputs versus outputs. The outputs are what are going to get me closer to the goal, but the inputs are the things that I have control over. And so, really, if we talk about things from a creator mindset, which I love, it's like, how do I take accountability and ownership over this goal? And how can I help myself get there closer, right? Without losing myself in the process. One of my goals this year is to hit the gym consistently 4 times a week instead of three. I was so good at three last year. I was like, I can up the ante just a little bit, hit upper and lower twice a week, and maybe mix in a run here or there. Um, but there's that approach that I like to take. And then there's the other side, which is like people want to remodel their whole life and kind of have these delusional goals, which in its own way can also work because it forces you to stretch outside the box. As long as you're focusing on those inputs, you can be unrecognizable, like probably 3 to 6 months in, let alone a whole year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question.
Absolutely. And similar question to you, Ashley. I mean, are you setting goals this year? I know some people don't really say, like, I'm making a New Year's resolution. It's just, I'm going to find things along the way that, I say, oh, I should work on this instead. So, what's kind of your approach to, setting things up for yourself in the year?
Well, first I look at the glass half full rather than half empty. I just really don't lead in like a negative way. But I also try to make sure it's attainable because I don't want to set myself up, right? Um, I I think a while ago I stopped doing the whole setting up these things. I just usually do a reflection at the end of the year and I'm like, what can I do better?
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was talking to my husband and I was like, I think I just want to try to have a more softer version of myself. And when I say softer, because I'm the only female in the house, it's all males. I'm the only female in the house. I like to have like control because I'm the one that organizes everything, make sure things run smoothly, which when things don't run smoothly, naturally I my anxiety or whatever gets heightened because I'm like on edge, right? So that happens a lot. And so I just want to be calmer. There we go. More peace. Um, and I think I just have to tell myself like it's okay. It's okay that it's not going to be perfect. And I think I tried it not even the new year because I knew I wanted this. So a few days ago, I just was like, you know what? It's gonna be okay. So it's gonna take a lot of just remembering whenever I get in that moment, like, okay, Ashley, this is what you said for yourself, and just breathe. And then just try, in I guess, a more smoother way, try to find a way to find it to work. Not to just get all antsy, and that's usually what I do, or just get overwhelmed. There we go. That happens a lot. And it's like a moment of a period where I just like freak out. And I'm like, because I'm so used to organizing and fixing things and making sure things run smooth. Like yesterday, I hosted New Year's. That's just my thing. But I just want to be more calmer, soft.
Yeah.
Softer,
Always
love
a good
that.
goal. Always a good goal to have, for sure, because things can just get out of control so quick too. So
Mm,
finding the right way to react to situations is something I try to work on for sure
mm.
all the time, especially as a parent. And Ashley, you and I both did it as educators too. It's those there's those things that you need to kind of find ways to be in control of that you
Problem solving, right? I think that's it. I do try to problem solve a lot. And
can.
if I don't, it just gives me a moment where I'm just like, so.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Kasia, you work with a lot of people who are trying to make these improvements that we're talking about, whether that's personally or professionally. And, at times I think it can be a little easier to help others find the goals that they want to achieve rather than help yourself do that too, right? That's kind of the point of having that support system and that network. So, what insight can you share about how you get the people you're working with to focus on goals that are going to be beneficial and sustainable too, not just all right, I checked this box, it's done, it's over, not doing this anymore type of situation with your goals.
Right. Those lifestyle changes, right? One thing I'll say is oftentimes you'll find that like personal goals tend to reflect professional goals or vice versa. Oftentimes we're trying to progress, and when we're evolving, like it happens on both sides of the equation because we're still the same person, right? We're just multidimensional. And so rarely do we grow in one aspect of life without growing in all of them. And that's something people tend to forget. So when it comes to working with people one-on-one or in small groups, something that comes up is people don't always know what they want. And I was on a call yesterday in the new year, and I asked this one client, and I was like, what are your short-term and long-term goals? And it was silence. So love what Ashley said. It's absolutely the time of year to be reflecting and to be taking stock of what worked, what didn't work, where we want to make adjustments in our life, and starting to work on that clarity. Because without the clarity, you don't know where you're going, right? So, once we have the clarity, then we start to work on the goals from the filter of energy, values, and season of life. So, getting to the root of why something is chosen as a goal in the first place, right? Is it based on my current energy levels and wanting to work towards another, like more energy? Is it based on my season of life? And, if I just had a baby, my life is going to look a lot different than, if I'm raising like a teenager. And of course, lastly, with the values. So, how does this reflect who I am and who I see myself as? And
Mhm.
that's how I want to show up in the world. So, asking those questions is a really good starting point, and then asking the question why a couple of times. I don't know if you guys have ever done this exercise, but you state a goal. I want to hit the gym 4 times a week this year. And then I ask myself why. It's like, well, I'm taking my fitness a little more seriously this year. Why? And you keep going down the rabbit hole. Usually it takes 3 to 7 whys to get to like a core story or belief. Um, and once you get that, you're able to be like, oh, that's the driving force or the underlying reason that this has actually come up in my life. So talking about root cause versus symptom and putting a bandage on something, right? And Matt, you just alluded to it. And then the last piece of advice I would share here is also asking, like, what do I want my life to feel like instead of what do I want to do? Because when you really ask yourself, it's like, I probably don't want to go to the gym like in the morning 4 times a week. But what do I want my life to feel like? I want to have energy. I want to be strong enough to carry big pieces of furniture up the stairs if I need to, right? Like different pieces that, reflect again your identity
Mhm.
instead of just something that's happening around you.
Yeah.
It's really important. Hmm.
Absolutely. So the question to you then, Ashley, is a little different since you recently went through the job search, and congrats again. Excited for the new role and everything, which we've talked about. But throughout it all, and again, this has been mentioned too, just kind of the positivity that you maintained. You always put out that front that you were looking at things in a beneficial way. Interviews didn't work out, but it was still a learning moment for you. It helped you prepare to the next one. And a lot of people are still in that similar situation looking for that next opportunity. So, share some insight, what worked for you, because obviously there are frustrations during this time period. And I'm sure it wasn't always sunny days like you alluded to on your posts, right? So, how did you go about finding that motivation to stay positive during those tough times?
So it's easy to get in the dumps. It's very easy. And I feel like if you get too far, it's hard to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Because uh, I've read a few posts on LinkedIn where I just you especially being a transition teacher, you like build a network
Mm-hmm.
that so you see everyone's posts and you just see a person start off very happy and then they just keep going down. And I'm like, oh, I wish, she would just think or be more optimistic or whatever the case may be. But for me, I had to just lead with that the storm is not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to feed that to my thoughts a lot. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I know on LinkedIn to people it just look like, oh, she's so positive, she's so positive. But what is it going to help if I'm being negative? What is it going to help if I'm being sad? The person reading my post is not going to want to hire me or even connect with me.
Right.
I mean, let's just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So it just made sense to just think it's not going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. And I'm going to be honest with you, because I created a spreadsheet of all the applications I put in,
Mm-hmm.
all the interviews I did. I really do believe, now people told me this, but I didn't believe it because it didn't happen to me. So naturally, we can't really believe something that we didn't experience.
Yeah.
A few people told me it's timing, it's timing, it's timing. I can honestly say I believe it was timing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason I put in those applications because I looked at the qualifications and I met those qualifications and I felt that I can deliver in this role. But I believe it is like timing because this role offers so much more than when I look back at my spreadsheet that those couldn't even offer.
Awesome.
So it's a blessing, to be honest. And I think you just have to have patience. Um, you just have to. I know sometimes we want something so bad. Um, but it may not be for us. And that's another thing I would when I get the email, oh, we moved on to with someone else, I have to look at the glass half full. So I train my brain to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe in a few months they were going to let me go. So maybe that's why I have to train my brain, to be honest. And I think a lot of people maybe don't know the tools to train your brain. I'm very thankful that my mom is a life coach. So she's a very positive person. She's all into spirituality. I got this for Christmas from her, the little bracelet. So I think you just have to have those tools
Mm-hmm.
and know how to utilize those tools, right?
Right.
Um, and just training my brain and just knowing that this is not going to last forever. It might take time, and that's okay. But that really worked for me. It
Yeah.
really.
Absolutely. So obviously, we're doing this show the first Monday of the new year's when it's airing, and we've said the cliche statements throughout New Year, New Me, and the goals and all of that. And obviously, this is the most popular time to do this, but it's also right in the throes of the holiday too. And Ashley, I'm sure you remember, it's also in the throes of your school break too, where you're trying to relax, but you're also trying to set new goals. And the holidays are open, the bell's going to ring again soon, you're going to get back to the classroom, back to work, everything like that. And with a new year can also come new stressors that you might not be prepared for. So Kasia, I'll start with you. What are some of the ways that you encourage the clients that you're working with to maintain their motivation with the uncontrollable factors that they may not be aware of just yet?
So good. Such a good question. And I'll kind of build on what Ashley said because to me, it sounded like that's a lot of resiliency, right? Like to be able to be patient, to be able to take the losses in the nose and to transmute it into like, I'm okay with this. And there's a larger reason that this happened. To
Mhm.
me, that really reflects resiliency and the strength of will to keep going even when it's easier to quit, right?
Yeah.
So the reality is life is always going to come at us. Like the challenges are probably always, they're always going to be there and they may shift and evolve and look a little bit different as we continue on our life journey. But in my opinion, life is not about removing all of the challenges and about the stressors because challenge is how we grow. And so it's actually just about how can I handle the challenges and the difficult times with more grace and compassion for myself, with more patience, right? And
Mhm.
increase that resiliency over time. The saying, this too shall pass, right? So very infrequently do we end up staying in these kind of situations that are just, a huge burden. And, there are, of course, situations in life where that may happen. And at the end of the day, if we're still looking from a creator mindset, what can I do? The first piece is awareness. So, awareness of what the difficulty is or what the challenge is.
Mhm.
Alignment. How can I start to align myself to a better outcome? Like, what are the day-to-day inputs or actions that I can do in order to move me in the right direction? And then last piece is aligned action, right? So, actually saying what you're going to do which builds self-confidence, which is building integrity with yourself, right?
Mhm.
The reason that matters is because motivation is unreliable to a degree, right? Like, or they say like building a habit even takes like 21 days, so you gotta really have that motivation. In my experience, trusting myself and having that self-trust to know that I'm aligning to this different identity is actually what helped me create habits like going to the gym in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So recognizing that uncontrollables are always going to be there, it's a part of life. Your attitude towards them, like Ashley mentioned, is really can really help because what's the point in, being negative about something when there is likely some aspect that you can control? And that's my last piece is focus on the controllables. Maybe you can take 5, 10 minutes to just like walk away after a stressful meeting and recenter yourself so that the rest of the day isn't a write-off, right?
Yeah.
Or like a difficult session. So really trying to focus on what you have control over is a key piece that um you'll get there with time, especially as it relates to reacting, right, instead of responding. So
Mhm.
oftentimes we have that instinct, and whether it's right or wrong, sometimes it comes out. It still happens to me too. But I think we're all kind of, my goal is to become untriggerable in life. Like that's my identity, that
Yeah.
identity I'm moving towards. So even if that happens, I'm like, okay, let's take a beat. And then you have the opportunity to go into, well, what triggered me? To react instead of respond. And it's a constant learning journey, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So similar question to you, Ashley, and I'll ask you to put the educator hat back on for a minute because I know you're aware of, after the break is done, winter break, summer break, educators kind of have that added pressure, like, all right, I've had my time off. Now it's time to really hit the ground running. And, you can trip yourself up pretty easily if you try to have that mindset too. So, for yourself and, the students that you're working with too, how did you kind of try to ease into goals coming off of longer breaks as opposed to trying to pile too much on because you've had all this time off recently?
I would say like go in easier said than done, right? Just go in with a fresh mind. And then I would say don't take things personal. I think that's as humans, naturally, we just do, especially when it's something that we yearn for, or we really want, or but I would just tell I would my advice would be like don't take things personal. And just do what you can, right? And then whatever you can't get done, just making it an attainable goal because it can get done. Everything is a mindset.
Right.
That is my thing. Everything is a mindset. But creating something that's attainable, and just not getting overwhelmed. And like I said, it's better said than done, but I would just go with that. Yeah. I think it's different because I'm not in the
Right.
this role is not in the classroom anymore. And to be
Yeah.
honest, it hasn't been that long since I've been gone, but I feel so far removed sometimes, especially when I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really do wish all my educators that's transitioning the best.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Kasia, you've shared your story before, and we talked about stressful situations that kind of led you down the path that you're on now, in terms of focusing on positivity and self improvement and things like that. And I think at times, and you and I have discussed this, that some people can't even identify the stress that they're kind of surrounded by, and it's easy to blame work, but it's not always that, right? Too. So, in terms of your own self-reflection, what were some of the questions that you asked yourself that kind of led you to, the path where you are now, and being able to identify the things that were adding stress as opposed to value to your life?
Great question, Matt. I think one of the first reflections as I go back 7, 8 years is um at first I was super hard on myself and I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I so tired? Like, why am I so irritable? Why is everything like why is my attitude so negative when I had never really been such a negative person before? Um and what I started to realize as I got a little more clear on all the pieces that were affecting me, because although it is internal, it's also we are affected by our environment. We are affected by things that are happening around us. So that's why it's so important to be mindful of the environment. I started to ask like, what is happening in the environment around me that's also causing me to have these reactions. So one of them was like stress wasn't turning off outside of work. I was bringing the stress that I felt in my at my desk pre-COVID, at my desk in the role in the office. I was bringing that home with me and I was irritated at everyone around me. Um, Things like Sunday scaries were in full effect. Like it was so difficult. Sundays I would sometimes just cry, like not wanting to go back, but like not realizing I had a choice at the time, which is a whole other story. That mental load being on your brain, the irritability, like I mentioned, these were pieces that I wasn't like familiar with because they weren't really me and they were being brought out a little bit by the environment, although it was still me acting in this way, right? So we take responsibility. I think what I came to realize was that my body knew before my mind caught up. Like the body was always tense and like I was breaking out in hives, full body. I was breaking out in like adult acne. Like it was and my mind was still trying to hold on to like, well, this is what you should be doing, right? This is what you should be doing. This is what's normal. And so I had to break out of that story to be like, but if this is what normal feels like, then I don't really want that because it was really difficult and uncomfortable. And so what I started to realize was, oh, work's not just taking my time, it's like taking my capacity to handle life because I already had such a small capacity. Work was taking all of it and then some. So those were some of the points along the path that I realized like if this is normal, I don't really want it. And that's when I started developing my spirituality a lot more. And I started to understand that I had the ability to impact my life and my environment, and I could make the changes I needed in order to not live like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I'm blessed because I am younger and I know that, as people get older and they're in more permanent circumstances, so to speak, they may feel like they can't have that flexibility and they may feel like they can't necessarily get out of these scenarios either, or maybe not get out of, that's the wrong terminology, but change or address them in some way. That's a story you're telling yourself. There's always something we can do. One of the things that really came to me over the holiday break was that it's like, it's not your circumstances that dictate your decisions. It's your decisions that dictate your circumstances. But people think it's the first, right? The former. They
Mm-hmm.
think that it's like, well, based on my situation, these are my options. And that is true to a degree, but you can also flip it, have fun with it, and say, if that wasn't a barrier, what would I do? Which I think is super helpful whenever we're in a pickle, is to see like if the impossible was possible, what would that look like?
Yeah, definitely. So, question to you then, Ashley, in going through the interview process that you did, and we've touched on this briefly in previous conversations, and just how important it was. Because I mean, you talk to anyone that's leaving their current situation, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say it's the environment that's causing them to go there. So, going into interviews, it's you're going to get sold on the company, and things are going to look great, and it's going to feel the first 90 days, whether it's the right situation or not, it's going to feel like it, right? Because it's new, it's fresh, it's fun. But along the way, you have to do your homework, right? And you went into these interviews equipped to do that. What were some of the questions that you were asking the interviewers just so that you could make sure if this is the choice I'm going to make, if this is the position I'm going to pursue, it's the right one for me long term because of the environment?
Okay, I think we did talk about this because on the last interview where I got the role, when I asked the hiring manager, my supervisor, the question, she was, like taken back a little bit. My go-to question is, how long have you been with the company?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that tells a lot because that tells me you're either happy with the company if you had a long tenure with the company. Um, and I don't know if she was like taken back because she had to count the years but I told her, I said, I'm asking this question because it'll tell me a lot. And it's like, well, her and the panel was just like, oh, but it does tell me a lot because no one is going to, well, I would hope no one will stay somewhere where they're unhappy, right?
Right.
So if I feel like the years you've been there, like you're happy, I hope you're not there just because you're comfortable. And so for me, that gives me a little insight about the company mission and values, and how they treat their employees. So that is my go-to question. I don't think there's another one because I mean I can ask all day, like what does support look like, and this and that. And just like sometimes that they probably feel we're telling them what they want to hear, they could tell me what I want to hear as well. But I
Right.
think like can you really like make up how long you've been at a company? I think that's like my go-to question. That just tells me a lot.
Mhm.
And usually when I hear double digit years, that I'm good. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, always important to go into the interviews with those types of questions. Because, like you said, and I mean, I interview people all the time. The answers that they get, I'm going to tell them the benefits. I'm going to sell them on working on for the organization. I'm not going to share horror stories or anything. Not that I have them anyway to share, but I mean, in past roles when I did, it wasn't things I was highlighting during the conversation. So, finding the right questions to ask where you'll get a legitimate response is so important for the interview process. So, to the both of you, first episode of 26. I want to thank you both for taking the time. I know the holiday schedules, we fit this in and everything worked out. So I'm always very appreciative to both of you for taking the time out of your day and week to do this. Before we close it out, I'll pass it to Kasia first and then close it out with you, Ashley. But Kasia, feel free to share things you're working on, where they can find you, how they can connect with you and utilize your services.
Thank you so much, Matt. Always grateful to be, a guest on the podcast. You're doing phenomenal work, the both of you. And as always, you can find me on LinkedIn, Kasia, Kasia, Palkowski, Palkowski, corporate healer, and of course, working full time as well in software sales. And what I'm working on right now, you know what? I have some updates that are happening on a personal level right now. So I'm in a season of life where love what I'm doing with corporate healing, but it's especially over the holidays, I've just kind of maybe not put the focus on it
Mm.
because of some stuff that's happening. Hopefully, next episode I'll be able to share some things that have been going on, and I'm just looking forward to starting the new year on the right foot and getting to the gym. I'm gonna head there after our session now. I
Okay.
find if I don't go in the mornings, I don't go at all. You know,
Right.
you wait till the end, you don't have the abilities. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Always grateful to be a guest again, Matt, and thanks Ashley for the great conversation too, because lots of points I built on what you had shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And Ashley, before we close it out, where can they find you? Obviously, you're going to be a more regular contributor here anyway, but we won't have you do this every week. But first episode here, share where they can find you, connect with you, and hear a little bit about your story, your recent job search.
All right. Well, I am on LinkedIn, Ashley Garrett Smith. I have been on in a while, and Matt, you probably can allude to this. I it is weird I haven't been on because I used to post daily.
Yeah.
I think I'm just trying to take it all in before I do go into this new role to spend time with family, be intentional, because things are going to change. So I my first day is Monday. I plan to be on there and engage. Since I made my last post announcing that I got the role, a lot of people have been sending connection requests and messaging, which I get that, and I do respond to those. But as far as posting, I haven't been posting, so I will be back on. I have some people in messages saying, "What do you mean you need to find the right words?" Like I literally need to find the right words. And when I say that, it's just so many people I need to thank, including Matt. So I just want to find the perfect words and just put them there so that everyone can feel my thankfulness and my gratefulness. Because that's important. Because it was a lot of people that I didn't know that got me through this time to get where I'm at now. And then I'll be announcing my first day, maybe taking a picture to move my first outfit or whatever the case may be. But you could definitely find me on LinkedIn. And I'll be on there regularly. I'm excited.
Yeah. Awesome. We can't wait to hear more about it and see as you progress to this and you're a true testament to the importance of networking, both of you, honestly, how important it is and how valuable it is. So I'm glad we could do this first episode of the year. Everyone who listened, who watched, appreciate you taking the time. Hope you have a great week and we will talk to you soon.